Welcome back to our channel. Please like, subscribe and share for more of our videos. Sit back and enjoy today's video. Thank you.
Into tales of wonder, adventures unfold. Together they explore with animated Bible stories.
Joseph interprets two dreams. Genesis, chapter 40 to 42. One day, two of the king's officers displeased the king. These officers were the men who served wine to the king and the king's baker. The king became angry with his officer who served him wine and his baker. So he put them in the prison of the captain of the guard. This was the same prison where Joseph was kept. The captain of the guard put the two prisoners in Joseph's care. They stayed in prison for some time. One night, both the king's officer who served him wine and the baker had a dream. Each had his own dream with its own meaning. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw they were worried. Joseph asked the king's officers who were with him, "Why do you look so unhappy today?" The two men answered, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can explain the meaning of them to us." Joseph said to them, "God is the only one who can explain the meaning of dreams. So, tell me your dreams." So the man who served wine to the king told Joseph his dream. He said, "I dreamed I saw a vine. On the vine there were 3 branches. I watched the branches bud and blossom, and then the grapes ripened. I was holding the king's cup. So I took the grapes and squeezed the juice into the cup. Then I gave it to the king." Then Joseph said, "I will explain the dream to you. The 3 branches stand for 3 days. Before the end of 3 days, the king will free you. He will allow you to return to your work. You will serve the king his wine just as you did before. But when you are free, remember me. Be kind to me. Tell the king about me so that I can get out of this prison. I was taken by force from the land of the Hebrews, and I have done nothing here to deserve being put in prison." The baker saw that Joseph's explanation of the dream was good. So he said to Joseph, "I also had a dream. I dreamed there were 3 bread baskets on my head. In the top basket there were all kinds of baked food for the king, but the birds were eating this food out of the basket on my head." Joseph answered, "I will tell you what the dream means. The 3 baskets stand for 3 days. Before the end of 3 days, the king will cut off your head. He will hang your body on a pole, and the birds will eat your flesh." 3 days later, it was the king's birthday. So he gave a feast for all his officers. In front of his officers, he let the chief officer who served his wine and the chief baker out of prison. The king gave his chief officer who served wine his old position. Once again, he put the king's cup of wine into the king's hand, but the king hanged the baker on a pole. Everything happened just as Joseph had said it would. But the officer who served wine did not remember Joseph. He forgot all about him. 2 years later, the king had a dream. He dreamed he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. He saw 7 fat and beautiful cows come up out of the river. They stood there, eating the grass. Then 7 more cows came up out of the river, but they were thin and ugly. They stood beside the 7 beautiful cows on the bank of the Nile. The 7 thin and ugly cows ate the 7 beautiful fat cows. Then the king woke up. The king slept again and dreamed a second time. In his dream, he saw 7 full and good heads of grain growing on one stalk. After that, 7 more heads of grain sprang up, but they were thin and burned by the hot east wind. The thin heads of grain ate the 7 full and good heads. Then the king woke up again, and he realized it was only a dream. The next morning, the king was troubled about these dreams. So he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. The king told them his dreams. but no one could explain their meaning to him. Then the chief officer who served wine to the king said to him, "I remember something I promised to do, but I had forgotten about it. There was a time when you were angry with me and the baker. You put us in prison in the house of the captain of the guard. In prison, we each had a dream on the same night. Each dream had a different meaning. A young Hebrew man was in the prison with us. He was a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he explained their meanings to us. He told each man the meaning of his dream. Things happened exactly as he said they would. I was given back my old position, and the baker was hanged. So the king called for Joseph. The guards quickly brought him out of the prison. He shaved, put on clean clothes, and went before the king. The king said to Joseph, "I have had a dream, but no one can explain its meaning to me. I have heard that you can explain a dream when someone tells it to you." Joseph answered the king, "I am not able to explain the meaning of dreams. God will do this for the king." Then the king said to Joseph, "In my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile River. I saw 7 fat and beautiful cows. They came up out of the river and ate the grass. Then I saw 7 more cows come out of the river. They were thin and lean and ugly. They were the worst-looking cows I have seen in all the land of Egypt. And these thin and ugly cows ate the first 7 fat cows. But after they had eaten the 7 cows, no one could tell they had eaten them. They just looked as thin and ugly as they did in the beginning." Then I woke up. I had another dream. I saw 7 full and good heads of grain growing on one stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain sprang up after them. But these heads were thin and ugly. They were burned by the hot east wind. Then the thin heads ate the 7 good heads. I told this dream to the magicians, but no one could explain its meaning to me. Then Joseph said to the king, "Both of these dreams mean the same thing. God is telling you what he is about to do. The 7 good cows stand for 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain stand for 7 years. Both dreams mean the same thing. The 7 thin and ugly cows stand for 7 years, and the 7 thin heads of grain burned by the hot east wind stand for 7 years of hunger. This will happen as I told you. God is showing the king what he is about to do. You will have 7 years of good crops and plenty to eat in all the land of Egypt. But after those 7 years, there will come 7 years of hunger. All the food that grew in the land of Egypt will be forgotten. The time of hunger will eat up the land. People will forget what it was like to have plenty of food. This is because the hunger that follows will be so great. You had 2 dreams which mean the same thing. This shows that God has firmly decided that this will happen, and he will make it happen soon. So let the king choose a man who is very wise and understanding. Let the king set him over the land of Egypt, and let the king also appoint officers over the land. They should take 1/5 of all the food that is grown during the 7 good years. They should gather all the food that is produced during the good years that are coming. Under the king's authority, they should store the grain in the cities and guard it. That food should be saved for later. It will be used during the 7 years of hunger that will come on the land of Egypt. Then the people in Egypt will not die during the 7 years of hunger." This seemed like a very good idea to the king. All his officers agreed. And the king asked them, "Can we find a better man than Joseph to take this job? God's spirit is truly in him." So the king said to Joseph, "God has shown you all this. There is no one as wise and understanding as you are. I will put you in charge of my palace. All the people will obey your orders. Only I will be greater than you. Then the king said to Joseph, "Look, I have put you in charge of all the land of Egypt." Then the king took off from his own finger his ring with the royal seal on it, and he put it on Joseph's finger. He gave Joseph fine linen clothes to wear, and he put a gold chain around Joseph's neck. The king had Joseph ride in the second royal chariot. Men walked ahead of his chariot calling, "Bow down!" By doing these things, the king put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt. The king said to him, "I am the king, and I say that no one in all the land of Egypt may lift a hand or a foot unless you say he may." The king gave Joseph the name Zaphanath-Paneah. He also gave Joseph a wife named Asenath. She was the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. So Joseph traveled through all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he began serving the king of Egypt. And he left the king's court and traveled through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 good years, the crops in the land grew well. And Joseph gathered all the food produced in Egypt during those 7 years of good crops. He stored the food in the cities. In every city he stored grain that had been grown in the fields around that city. Joseph stored much grain, as much as the sand of the seashore. He stored so much grain that he could not measure it. Joseph's wife was Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On. Before the years of hunger came, Joseph and Asenath had 2 sons. Joseph named the first son Manasseh. Joseph said, "God has made me forget all the troubles I have had and all my father's family." Joseph named the second son Ephraim. Joseph said, "God has given me children in the land of my troubles." The 7 years of good crops came to an end in the land of Egypt. Then the 7 years of hunger began, just as Joseph had said. In all the lands people had nothing to eat, but in Egypt there was food. The time of hunger became terrible in all of Egypt. The people cried to the king for food. He said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph, do whatever he tells you to do." The hunger was everywhere in that part of the world. And Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the people of Egypt. This was because the time of hunger became terrible in Egypt. And all the people in that part of the world came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain. This was because the hunger was terrible everywhere in that part of the world. Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt. So he said to his sons, "Why are you just sitting here looking at one another? I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy grain for us to eat. Then we will live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with them. Jacob was afraid that something terrible might happen to Benjamin. Along with many other people, the sons of Jacob, also called Israel, went to Egypt to buy grain. This was because the people in the land of Canaan were hungry also. Now Joseph was governor over Egypt. He was the one who sold the grain to people who came to buy it. So Joseph's brothers came to him. They bowed face down on the ground before him. When Joseph saw his brothers, he knew who they were, but he acted as if he didn't know them. He asked unkindly, "Where do you come from?" They answered, "We have come from the land of Canaan to buy food." Joseph knew they were his brothers, but they did not know who he was. And Joseph remembered his dreams about his brothers bowing to him. He said to them, "You are spies. You came to learn where the nation is weak." But his brothers said to him, "No, my master, we come as your servants just to buy food. We are all sons of the same father. We are honest men, not spies." Then Joseph said to them, "No, you have come to learn where this nation is weak." And they said, We are 10 of 12 brothers. We are sons of the same father. We live in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is there with our father right now, and our other brother is gone." But Joseph said to them, "I can see I was right. You are spies, but I will give you a way to prove you are telling the truth. As surely as the king lives, you will not leave this place until your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. The rest of you will stay here in prison. We will see if you are telling the truth. If not, as surely as the king lives, you are spies." Then Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. Do this thing, and I will let you live. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison. The rest of you go and carry grain back to feed your hungry families. Then bring your youngest brother back here to me. If you do this, I will know you are telling the truth. Then you will not die." The brothers agreed to this. They said to each other, "We are being punished for what we did to our brother. We saw his trouble. He begged us to save him, but we refused to listen. That is why we are in this trouble now." Then Reuben said to them, "I told you not to harm the boy, but you refused to listen to me. So now we are being punished for what we did to him." When Joseph talked to his brothers, he used an interpreter. So they did not know that Joseph understood what they were saying. Then Joseph left them and cried. After a short time, he went back and spoke to them. He took Simeon and tied him up while the other brothers watched. Joseph told his servants to fill his brothers' bags with grain. They were to put the money the brothers had paid for the grain back in their bags. They were to give them things they would need for their trip back home. And the servants did this. So the brothers put the grain on their donkeys and left. When they stopped for the night, one of the brothers opened his sack. He was going to get food for his donkey. Then he saw his money in the top of the sack. He said to the other brothers, "The money I paid for the grain has been put back. Here it is in my sack." The brothers were very frightened. They said to each other, "What has God done to us?" The brothers went to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him everything that had happened. They said, "The master of that land spoke unkindly to us. He accused us of spying on his country. But we told him that we were honest men, not spies. We told him that we were 10 of 12 brothers, sons of one father. We said that one of our brothers was gone. And we said that our youngest brother was with our father in Canaan. Then the master of the land said to us, 'Here is a way I can know you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take back grain to feed your hungry families and go, and bring your youngest brother to me. Then I will know that you are not spies, but honest men, and I will give you back your brother whom you leave with me, and you can move about freely in our land.' Then the brothers emptied their sacks, and each of them found his money in his sack. When they and their father saw it, they were afraid. Their father Jacob said to them, 'You are robbing me of all my children. Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin away too. Everything is against me.' Then Reuben said to his father, 'You may put my 2 sons to death if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. Trust him to my care. I will bring him back to you.' But Jacob said, 'I will not allow Benjamin to go with you. His brother is dead. He is the only son left from my wife Rachel. I am afraid something terrible might happen to him during the trip to Egypt. Then I would be sad until the day I die.'" I wonder, how did Joseph interpret the dreams of the king? Did you guess right? Joseph explained that the dreams foretold 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of severe famine. Thank you for watching. To see more of our videos, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye for now.